welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia if you're new to my channel, and if you're already a subscriber, welcome back. So if you clicked on this video today, you have already made it up in your mind that you want to go on to be a college professor. So I have taken upon myself to write down 4 quick and easy tips that you need to do before you apply to becoming a collegiate teacher slash professor. So if you guys are new to my channel, I will just tell you that I have been a college professor now for the last 3 years. I've done adjunct, and recently I have transitioned into full-time teaching. So my position is called assistant professor term. So I am not tenured just yet, so that is why it is called assistant professor term. Well, all right, enough of that, you guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button because I have a lot of more content coming about being a professor, what it's like, the steps to get there, my teaching journey. So you don't want to miss all these videos that's coming. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow me on my social medias too, so that way I can connect back with you. And let's just get right into this video. All right, you guys, tip number 1. There are 3 documents that you need to have before you apply to become a professor. So the first document, you guys know this, is a resume, okay? You need an updated resume. Number 2, a CV, that's for short, which stands for a curriculum vitae, okay? And then your third document needs to be a teaching philosophy, all right? So when it comes to that resume, you guys, we all have been making resumes since we first worked, right? So just make sure you have an updated one. Make sure it includes the most recent number. Make sure it includes references that are updated, right? Make sure those email addresses are still good. So your resume needs to include your past work history. And another thing that you want to make sure that is included on your resume are skills that align with being an educator, okay? So you need to make sure that the skills that you're putting down align. So those need to be communication, creativity, versatility, right? Are you a fast learner, right? All of those are great skills to have, and they're gonna stick out when the hiring committee comes upon your resume, right? You want to make sure those skills scream, hey, I'm a future teacher, I'm a teacher, I can do this, I'm an educator, right? So yes, please make sure you use an updated resume. And if you need help with resume, always check out LinkedIn. They have free classes. Make sure you check out Google. Just do a Google search because there are plenty of free resume builders on Google, right? So just make sure you choose one, and choose one that really aligns with being an educator and your style and who you are as a person. So you guys, what is a CV, right? You may not know what this is, and that's okay, because what I have found is a lot of times individuals who have CVs, they are individuals who have already been working in academia, right, or higher education, right? So a CV is different from a resume because a CV is a shorter summary of your job history, your education history, any research you've published, right? So it's going to be really concise and straight to the point of who you are in more of an academia way is what a CV is. So that's why it's super important that if you want to go into your journey of teaching, that you have a CV. And the third document, a teaching philosophy, is critical before you get into the process of applying for a university, because you need to do some reflection on who am I as an educator? Where do I see myself as an educator? Why do I feel I should have the role of educating students, right? So that's why it's important for you guys to really reflect and write a crisp and clean teaching philosophy. Something that I included in my philosophy was who I am as a person, right? So I'm creative, I am ambitious, right? And I think all of these skills are needed in terms of being able to educate the future, right? So for me, I'm a social worker, right? So I use social work key terms in my teaching philosophy. So whatever profession you may be in, right, don't be afraid to use those words, right? Stick out on paper, right? So basically that's what it is. It gives the committee time to learn about you first before they meet you, either face to face or through the web. So that's why it's super important to make sure you write a teaching philosophy, and it doesn't have to be long. It can be 1 page, 1.5, right? It doesn't have to be long at all, but definitely make sure it reflects who you are as a person. It speaks to your personality, speaks to what you love, what you're passionate about, right? So make sure you definitely write a great teaching philosophy. The second tip that I want to mention that a lot of people don't think about, but do you have a teaching niche? Do you have a teaching specialty? Is it something that in the past maybe you've done research on, right? Do you have your PhD? What was your research on? Do you have your doctorate degree? What was your research on? I have a DSW, which is a Doctorate of Social Work. So when I was in school, I did my research on mental health in the Black youth, right? So I specialize in critical race theory. I specialize in diverse techniques. I specialized in diverse curriculums, right? It was a lot that I was learning through my research that I can speak to that made me stand out in my interviews when I went to go on my teaching interviews, because I could say, hey, I would be a great candidate to teach social justice classes because I have a special niche and I have already done so much research on X, Y, and Z. So you see how it just makes you stand out even more versus someone who's applying and they don't have a niche. They just say, hey, I can teach anything. Well, that's great, right? Anybody can kind of pick up anything. But have you already done the extra work that makes you the person that can say, hey, they are going to be a great instructor for this subject, right? What is your niche? What is your specialty, right? Basically, you just want to be able to speak to that specialty, speak to that niche, right? And of course, you want to say, hey, I would be a great instructor for any kind of course, right? But, you know, if you are looking for an instructor who specializes in social justice classes, who specializes in critical race classes, right? I will be a great candidate for that because I have X, Y, and Z. So you see how you are just selling yourself, right? And you want to do that because you do know the work, right? So there's nothing wrong with you saying out loud, hey, this is something that I've researched, I've spent a lot of time on, and I just want you to know, right? Because you may bring something to that university that they don't already have, right? And that is something that universities are always looking for, right? What do you bring to us that we don't already have, right? So think about that. Okay, tip number 3, you guys. This one is super important. You need to make sure that you have 3 solid references. 3 solid references, you guys. And what I mean by that is, we all know sometimes when we fill out applications, right, they ask, hey, do you have a reference, right? And they want you to list the reference. They want you to include the name, the email, their phone number, right, how long you've known this person, right? And that is critical when you are going into your teaching journey, because you are going to meet at least 3 people who can speak highly of you and your ability to become a professor. And you really want to make sure that these references are individuals who are also in academia, right? So for me, when I first started my teaching journey, I was in my doctoral program. So my references, majority were my professors that I had grown really close to, right? So these are individuals that are also doing the job that you too want to do. So these will make great references, right? So could it be like a supervisor at your job now? Like say you don't work in academia at all right now, you're not in higher education, and you want to use your supervisor right now. That's fine, right? But it would be even better if you could include someone on your resume that taught you. And so you just want to make sure whoever you include on your resume or whoever you include on your application when you start your professor journey and you start applying to universities, that they can just speak highly to who you are as a person and how you wish to progress into academia, higher education. So when it comes to getting references, you have to ask permission, you guys. I hope you guys know this, but if you don't, right, you always want to ask permission to use someone as a reference, right? You want to send them a quick email, right? Hey, Dr. Smith, we have known each other for the past 5 years. You are an instructor of mine. I feel you can speak highly, right? Or I worked alongside of you, or you're currently my supervisor and I feel like you can speak highly of me, and definitely just let them know what your plans are. I wish to be a college professor. I wish to be an adjunct professor. I wish to be a full-time professor. And I was wondering if I can have your support. Would it be okay if I include you on my reference list? And if they say yes, then of course, ask for emails, give phone numbers. And if they say no, that's okay too. You thank them for their time, for reading your email, and you find someone else. And it's just that simple, okay? Okay, you guys, last tip, number 4. This one's a fun one, right? So hey, you're like, okay, I definitely want to go into academia. I want to be a college professor. Okay, where do you want to work? You have got to know where you wish to apply. Which school or schools do you really want to teach at or could potentially teach, right? So for me, it was top 3. I said top 3 schools that I want to teach, and I listed them out, right? And I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notebook. So when it comes to planning out which schools to apply for, you want to make sure that you're asking yourself, well, do I want to be a face-to-face professor, or do I want to be only an online professor, right? Because you have that option, right? A lot of programs only have for hybrid programs, right? Those online classes, right? They don't need a teacher to come into the university, but they need you to show up via the web, right? So is that what you're interested in? Or do you want to be like me? I'm a face-to-face teacher, right? So I go into the university and I teach. But with that, of course, if I'm going to be a face-to-face teacher, you need to be applying to a school that is in the same city as you, right? You could potentially apply for a school maybe that's in the next town, the next city, right? But that really depends on you, right? That depends on if you can make that commute, right? If you can really commit to making that commute to wherever that school is, right? So yeah, for me, definitely I applied to the universities that are right here in my hometown because I knew that I wanted to do face-to-face, right? So it just made it easier, and I'm only 15 minutes from campus, so there was no big commute. When it comes to selecting the schools that you want to apply for, make sure you're researching the schools, right? Research their morals, their values. Research, you know, who is their current president, right? Research their program. This is an extra tip. Research the program that you want to apply for. So for example, I'm a social worker, so I was always researching their social work program, trying to learn about more of what classes they already offer, who is already teaching there, right? Because a lot of universities have websites where you can already see the individuals who are already teaching there, right? So all of that matters because you're gonna have questions, right? Especially if you get selected for an interview, right? This just sets you apart if you're already familiar with the school and what the school offers. So definitely do your research. And having 3 schools on your list just opens you up for a bigger opportunity to come, right? Maybe you'll ace all 3 of those interviews, right? And they'll say, hey, I want to hire you, right? Or maybe you'll only get invited to 2 of those schools for an interview, right? But at least you have options, right? Don't just get set on one school and think, okay, I'm going to apply here. This is the one school I want to work at. That's great, right? But always have options. It's okay, all right? And especially if you have options, that will give you even more options when it comes to salary, right? Maybe one school will pay more and the other school doesn't pay that much, right? So maybe you do go use you and it's going to pay you more. It's just all preference, you guys. But like I said, definitely keep your options open and select 3 schools to apply to. Can you do more? Of course, right? But it's just up to you. And make sure that you're applying for the position that you want. If you know that you want to be a full-time professor, apply for the full-time positions. Don't apply for adjunct if that's not what you want to do, right? But if you feel like, hey, I can make a sacrifice and I'll do adjunct for now until I can do full-time professor, then do that, right? But like I said, definitely keep your options open and apply to what you really want to do. But that's it for this video, you guys. I hope you learned so much about how to kickstart your teaching journey. I'm excited for you guys. I honestly love being a professor and I know you will love it too. So let me know, comment down below if these tips helped you. Definitely comment down below if you have any more questions or if you want me to do another video on a certain topic. Just let me know, you guys. I'm so appreciative of you watching and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.